YouTube, Awesome Rider here. Welcome to my review for the third episode of Kamen Rider Gavv, and I'm continuing to enjoy this show. I do think this was the weakest of the three so far, and I mentioned this in the Boom Boonja review, but both episodes this week of Superhero Time felt similar in the sense that they felt like a good mix of kind of almost a day-in-the-life, kind of status quo feeling episode, but also continuing to move things forward. I think just because in a way it didn't move things forward in as big of a way as I was thinking it would, being so early on, but it still moved things forward in a way that kept the momentum going, and that's one of the major positives of the series so far. I mean, who knows? Maybe they could put the pedal to the metal next week and ruin all this goodwill, but so far the pacing of the series has been great in terms of the forms. Like this week even, we debuted like a new ability, like showcasing the soda soda power with the giant arm, and that's kind of part of it, but it doesn't feel the same. Like, I really like that because even though we know we're here to sell toys, I think when they give the form debut as an episode to breathe, it just makes it feel more balanced and less like we're only here for the toys. And also allows you to kind of sit with the forms and be excited about them and remember them more. You know, I hate to keep bringing up Gotchard, and I'm going to have one more Gotchard comparison, but the way Gotchard handled it was so weird because they would debut a form, but it wouldn't even be the showcase. Like in most cases, it's like, oh, I got this new form and we're going to finish the episode with it, or, oh, I got this new form and I need its specific ability to fight this monster. But Gotchard would be like, okay, I'm debuting this form, but now I'm going to transform back into last week's episode for the finisher. And that between that and then debuting the forms back to back to back, it made me really forget a lot of those forms, even though I liked a lot of them. So we could end up like debuting Marshmallow and the other forms back to back, but at least right now I'm very happy that we let an episode breathe where we saw the potato chip form again. We did show off a new ability, but it just added into making me feel like we're actually breathing with the pacing of this. Like, I've said this before, I said it last week, but in most series I feel like we would have already debuted another form, and we already would have Shoma, Hanto, and Sachiko working at the shop together. I like that it feels like we're easing into the status quo. I really do appreciate that with the pacing. Same thing with like the way we're, delving into Hanto's storyline, and we establish he knows Sachiko. So that's like a nice little shortcut of getting those characters together eventually, but it still feels like we're pacing them probably becoming a team very well, and I really like that, and it showcased a little bit of their dynamic, which was fun. I like the way that Hanto's story is going too, with this investigation. I like how level-headed he seemed in this episode. I was worried after last week when he saw Gavv and the other monsters that he was going to be one of those characters that flied off the handle whenever he saw a rider or a monster or anything related to his vendetta, where he'd be like, you're a monster, I'm gonna blah, 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 or whatever. You know what I mean? You know those type of characters. Like, you killed my mom even though you don't look like the monster that did it. I like that he was like, okay, it's this one specific monster that did it. They're probably related, and maybe the Kamen Rider isn't a bad guy. Like, I was pleasantly surprised by that. I was ready for the trope of him being enemies with Gavv right away. Maybe he will be, but you know what I mean. I was just surprised by what an intelligent reaction he had to it, and I'm enjoying the pacing of his investigation storyline. Also, random side note, his little office with his partner reminds me of the vibe of the newspaper offices in Ryuki. Also, while I'm talking about small little side notes, just little notes I wrote down of funny things that amused me in the episode. I like when Hanto comes across the battle, they have the audio playing of the driver in a way that makes it clear that it's like in the distance, seeing it coming closer with the force of ages, centuries gone by. They play it so it's clear it's in the distance, and I was just amused by the idea of civilians like within the vicinity of a rider battle just hearing all the crazy belt voices either for finishers or for transforming. I just found that funny. Also, it was really funny to see him crank his driver with his giant hand. That sounded like a giant toku euphemism. So this week we have Shoma meeting a new character whose name I actually forgot. I think I've been pretty good about trying to remember the names, but I'm sorry I forgot this guy's name. But it's another character that I think is supposed to be a regular character from the trailer, and he kind of teaches him that you need nutritious food in order to survive, and you can't survive on snacks, which this being a kid's show is probably a good message to put in there because odds are kids are going to want to emulate their hero and probably, crave candy when they see this character eating all this candy and chips in these episodes. But it was a nice little character beat too for him learning more about the human world. Although, didn't he eat like sushi or something last week? Regardless though, I kind of liked that. And we have him helping this character out only to discover he's doing some bad things and robbing people. It's for a noble purpose because he wants to pay back this father figure that he can't pay back. He definitely has some cartoonishly, almost not evil seeming, but he's like, haha, I got the money, which is just really funny. And it made me think that I actually kind of liked this. I like that Shoma has been kind of experiencing the human world and learning from meeting different characters. But this time he encountered a bad part of humanity, but obviously it wasn't fully bad because it's going to be a character I think we're going to see again, and he turned him around. But I wouldn't have minded if he actually met kind of a bad person that was just robbing people and it kind of taught him about the bad side of humanity. I think that was meant to show him that to a degree. To Shoma him that, I botched that pun. But still, I did kind of just like that dynamic, and there was that moment where he's like, don't, do bad stuff or whatever. I like that the reason he changed, or at least the thing he flashes back on when he decides to turn over a new leaf, wasn't some generic Toku speech, but more so felt like guilt out of taking advantage of this like innocent, nice guy. So I overall enjoyed that little storyline. And speaking of Shoma, I really have been enjoying him so far. I'm totally preparing myself to be disappointed. Again, I hate to keep bringing up Gotchard, but I was burned so bad last year that I don't want to like get too excited. I just want to be set up to be disappointed. But thus far, he's been so much more well-balanced. I still stand by that I wish we would have more of a variety in writer protagonists, as it still feels like they're cut from the same cloth. But it isn't necessarily about my overwhelming dislike of this type of character necessarily, it's about the presentation. And this actor does so much of a better job. You know, when he's being quirky and silly, it's just so much more endearing and believable. And even if he annoys me or when he annoys me, just the performance is so much more well done. It makes all the difference, and I can't stress that enough. But thus far, he's been really well balanced. I think the alien angle obviously helps make that like quirkiness make more sense in general, but he's actually been way more reserved because, like, you know, when they're an alien, they can go way more off the walls. Like, think about John. He was raised by like pandas, and he went balls nuts. But anyway, I mean, maybe that's different. Regardless, the alien angle goes a long way to explaining the weirdness, but he's been so much more well-balanced. Like, he has funny, silly stuff going on, but he still feels like a normal person. He doesn't feel like a cartoon yet. He doesn't feel like he's just a vessel for toku catchphrases and inspirational speeches. And also, he can get serious. And like those moments when he like lets the monster make their choice, he's like, you know, you have a choice to stop or I can kill you. I mean, he doesn't say it like that, but you know what I mean? And we don't get to see him like as the actor, but the voice performance, and he's had some moments where he got serious, like in the first episode when he was civilian fighting, where he can deliver a moment where I can believe in his heroic side, which I really like. And I loved seeing that showcased where he gets really serious and he gets that badass Rider voice on where he gives the villain a chance, and then he takes him out, and then he immediately is like, don't do bad stuff. I thought that was funny. It reminded me of the delivery of Spider-Man in Far From Home when he goes, "Thank you, Miss Parker, for having me, and thank you guys for having me." Like, it was just such a great showcase of the range of his character. We also do some setup this episode for Kamen Rider Valen. We see this character that studies the granites pick up the Chaco ones, and he makes contact with Hanto when they both contact the writer. So I think that's going to be a cool way for him to learn about the world, and I like the pacing for that. I hope it's not too soon. I'm going to predict episode 5, maybe 6, but I like the way that's all laying down. We also lay more down about how the villains, you know, turn people into candy to eat. A little bit more intrigue there with the plot overall. Overall, again, still really enjoying it. My only real negative about this episode is, again, I felt it was the weakest so far, but not that it was bad, it was just probably the one I enjoyed the least. But I still am quite enjoying the show, and I'm very pleasantly surprised. I'm, again, to repeat myself, setting myself up to be disappointed because I don't want to be let down too hard, but for now, I'm just gonna enjoy enjoying it. Kind of like when I was writing that Boom Boonger hype. It's like I'm gonna try not to think about it too hard and just enjoy it while I can, because I was really happy that I was actually legitimately excited to sit down for superhero time this week, and it didn't feel like clocking in. And I hope the show keeps this pacing and momentum, because while it's not 100% my thing, I'm really still enjoying what they're giving us so far. I even like wanted to pre-order the figure art, but I'm like, but what if I end up hating the show? I for sure want to get one of the little, what are they called, Gachinizo? I want to get at least one of those, because even when I don't collect for a year or two or whatever, I always have one of the gimmick. Plus, I'm really digging it so far. But anyways, guys, let me know if you're still digging the show so far. Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for all my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.